Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is Eddie Marcus one more time. I want to direct this message to everyone that has an opportunity to hear it. I want to ask you to look at me. What do you see? Yes, you see an aging black man. And yes, I have lived quite some time. But I'm the same boy that grew up swimming in the mud holes of Roebuck Lake in Itta Bena, Mississippi, picking and chopping cotton in those same fields in Mississippi. And yes, like many of you, I went to school, but I'm no genius. In fact, I just got through school, probably just floating through, just like you do. I was fortunate enough to have some musical skills and a young man who knew of me and many others like myself, a young man who had gone to college because he had a genius in music, got a chance to be a student director in the music department and assisted me and a lot of other guys to go to college on a music scholarship. But I'm no special individual any more than you. I have the trials of life just like you. I've been strangely active in certain activities that make me guilty of many things that I should be ashamed of. In other words, I've been exposed to the kind of things that does not give me the right to be critical of you, except if I'm trying to save you or to help you by benefit of my experience. Everything that people do that are considered basically despicable, I've probably been engaged in that as well. And when I think about all the things that people can do and have done that I have not done, and that's taken a life, and I must admit there was a time when I was threatening to do that. It was just by the grace of something that I don't understand that prevented it from happening. I share this with you to say to you, I cannot condemn any of you. All I can ask is that you think for a moment. Recognize that the things that you do that you don't like, you don't have to. And why do I say that? I say that because in my most dire moments, I recognized that there is a power somewhere either in me or outside of me that is so magnificent that I refer to as God. And based upon that power and the occasion that I had to deal with, the indication, and I have concluded that that power is love. And so while many of you are going through all of the different problems of life that you have to go through or that you go through, and you think that you're alone, you think that nobody cares, you think that you have to look out for yourself or there will be nobody else, I want to say to you that there is one that loves you. It is not the one, your mother, who can love you or based upon conditions change your mind, or your father, daddy, who likewise can or might change their mind. I want to say to you that there is a God. Every last one of you who are listening to me today, I want to tell you that there is a God, and God loves you. I know that this might be difficult for many of you to understand. I know that this might be so difficult that you reject the message that I share with you. But I want you to know that that does not stop God. You see, I have grown to understand that we, the people, have certain powers of choice. And when we exercise that power in a direction that does not benefit us to the degree of bringing us closer to peace and prosperity and the joys of life and the tenderness that we might have for ourselves and one another, we might think that God is evil, that God doesn't care, that God is low down. But I want you to know, ladies and gentlemen, that all of the pain, all of the suffering that you feel came from humankind. Humankind who themselves have decided that there is no God and that they had to make choices for themselves. And what we experience today is the result of the decisions they made. And they themselves went through the trials and tribulations that they had to endure because of the decisions that were made by those before them. And this has been handed down, this process, since the beginning of time. But if we want to see changes, ladies and gentlemen, you and I are going to have to be the instruments of that change by forgiving all those others before us, forgiving those even that live with us today, because in truth, we are no better than they are. Our president and the decisions that he makes is just like us. He was taught as we have been taught. He needs love, just like we need love. Now, love does not mean allowing him to go on continuously doing the things that he does, but standing against those things that bring pain and suffering to others, not to punish him, but to stop that ball from rolling down the hill, to stop it, to show some different direction, to cause it to go a different way, and to forgive him as we ourselves would want to be forgiven. When you look at me, ladies and gentlemen, I talk about peace and prosperity and joy and freedom. You all want that just as I talk about the pains and sufferings that we have to go through because we don't have access to food and clothing and shelter as we hoped we would. We might not have access to education that we need to make us better at whatever it is that we have been given to do, or health care that would protect us from sicknesses and diseases. And in conjunction with that, having a career that would enable us to be respectful toward ourselves, knowing that we participate in the creative process, knowing that that gives us the ability to stand confidently before one another, knowing that we play our part, we give our part, and in so doing we don't have to be ashamed of anything, and at the same time expect from our labors that which we engage. Each of us, our birthright is made manifest by our engagement, and having done so, then we are to receive the rewards thereof. I myself, ladies and gentlemen, I have all of those desires. I want it to be wonderful for me as you would want it to be wonderful for you. But in my lifetime, I have made a promise to the Almighty Universal God that as much as I want these things, that because of the love that he has shown towards me, that I would be a voice for that love. And all of those things that I want, I would speak those things in reality for each and every last one of you. And I have promised that God, that I would not be satisfied in receiving those desires, in receiving those needs and wants and blessings in my life until those same desires and wants and blessings as you see them manifest in your lives. And yet, ladies and gentlemen, as I stand before you and say these things to you, I know that they will not come for all of us until each of us change our minds, change ourselves and our way of thinking. Some call it a renewing of the mind. Some call it love. That's a hard road to hoe, especially when we've gone through the things that we've gone through. And yet, ladies and gentlemen, I know that conditions can manifest themselves in such a way that that which we thought was so complicated can become so easy. Especially when we recognize that if we are to live, then we're going to have to depend upon one another. We're going to have to respect one another. We're going to have to recognize that we need one another. And without the efforts and the help from one another, we're just a lost pig. I come to you, ladies and gentlemen, to say that I have not lost any desire for a wonderful life. But I can't have that wonderful life. And my closest relatives, my children, have been sacrificed by me as I have been sacrificed for the same love that I want for us all. Some say, well, why didn't I do it for my children? Because then I would become like that I talk against. That's like me and mine. As long as we got it, then everything is satisfied. I don't want you to think that I am satisfied with that. And I am not satisfied with that because the God of life, the God of love, is not satisfied with that. Until we, the people, make the decision that our honor, that our promise is in God. And until we can see it in God, we will never see it in one another. We will never see it ourselves. We will never be prepared to do the things that needs to be done until we see it in ourselves. And so as I think about this nation, as I think about those who come before you as politicians, possible candidates for this office or that office, well, they each say the same things. They say the same kinds of things that I have just articulated here to you. They have always been said, but the fruition, the manifestation of that has never come to the degree in which we hoped and wanted to. Yes, we've seen a few changes here and there, and we've seen those changes be wiped out like chalk on a chalkboard, erased, just for another to come through, for us to be deceived thinking we're going somewhere and recognizing later on that we're in the same position or either a few steps back. I want to go forward, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot go forward without you. It is ordained that we go forward. But in order to go forward, we must go step by step together, individually for certain, because the group might take us astray. And yet we recognize that if we are on the right track as individuals, we are a group. And I'm praying and I'm hoping that we can recognize these realities and wake up in time before our nation is destroyed. That we will wake up in time before we as people deceive ourselves and allow ourselves to go back into war where brothers and sisters are so upset by deception that we are killing one another for a promise that each side desires, not understanding how to achieve that. I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen, these politicians, they want to help, but without the guidance of God, they cannot do it. And I'm not talking about God outside of you. I'm talking about the God inside of you, recognizing this reality and giving your power, demanding that no politician is representative of you unless they have that as their goal, to bring peace and prosperity and freedom and joy to us all. And when I say these things to you ladies and gentlemen, there's no doubt in my mind, I know these things can happen because they happen every day. I'm saying give God, give all of us a chance to be real. Give us life. Give life to one of us. Give life to all of us, that we may be a representative that none of us are ashamed of. Thank you for listening, ladies and gentlemen. This is my prayer, and this is my plea to all of you. Bye-bye.